Do not despise the days of new beginnings. The plans of the diligent surely lead to success, but all who are hasty surely head for poverty. That's Proverbs. So I used to think I had a money problem, and it turns out I really just had a mindset problem. And all it took was a old dusty book written nearly 100 years ago for me to bridge that gap and steer me in the right direction. Hey y'all, my name is Jay, and today I want to go over introduce you to a book that genuinely changed my perspective and viewpoint on how I handle finances and gave me a plethora of insight, providing me with clarity, just reshaping my goal set overall. I'm talking about the book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And if you've never heard it, I suggest you do so. It's a short read. There's no glitz or glam. There's no charts and algorithms. Just straight up ancient wisdom. It kind of reminds me of like biblical text in the way it's written. But, as if it was described on some like stone tablets. So whether you're religious or not, it doesn't really matter, because I think the message will hit regardless. And I'd even go on to say that it hits harder than any guide or YouTube video that touch on financial literacy as a whole. Now let me hit record real quick and break this down for you. Like I mentioned, this book changed the game for me. Now, your results may vary depending on how well versed you already are in financial education, but I still believe it has something for everyone at all levels. For someone like me who had no stake in the game or understanding besides basic fundamentals of your parents telling you if you want something to save for it, that's pretty much as far as it went. Financial literacy isn't something that was really taught in the education system, to a comfortable degree where, brand new adults can just go on, take on the environment around them in a proper manner. That's why we as Americans have so much credit card debt, for example, or how the national average of a car payment is around $700. That's the average. Back to the book. In short, this literature covers how older rich men taught other individuals to become wealthy through several key principles I'll discuss in this video. These principles being: pay yourself first, don't be led by fools, make your money work for you, and invest in yourself. This may sound basic to some or eye-opening, but these are the groundwork principles that I have used as a foundation since I was recommended this book about 5 years ago. If you're someone like me working a 9 to 5, trying to make better money moves or break cycles, I want to show how this little book shifted the way I look at wealth, saving, and ownership. So the first rule: if you remember anything from this video or from the book at all, I want it to be this rule right here. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. So, AKA, pay yourself first. Spend less than you make, save at least 10% of your income, and let the excess build up in your purse. So at its core, it's always going to be down to saving and budgeting, right? Back then, every dollar I made felt like it was already spent, between rent, groceries, bills, just gone. And how can I justify paying everyone else and leaving myself with nothing? So I started small. I saved about 10% of each check. Didn't matter if it was $40 or $400. And you really start to notice that one change, and it built up my confidence and made me feel like what I was working towards was real. Another lesson: guard thy treasure from loss. I'm low-key sounding like a pastor here, but the translation is be smart with your money, especially when other people are trying to spend it for you. You've worked hard up until this point, saved up quite a bit, and you need to protect that capital. The book warns, do not take advice from people who don't understand what they're talking about. A bricklayer shouldn't be telling you about where to buy jewels. And this can be easier said than done, I know, but the point is to just be skeptical, ask questions, do some research, and just have a plan. From there, to just do your best to form your own opinion. don't act so fast. Don't always be so spontaneous, especially when it comes to money. The slow and narrow, while usually boring, is most likely the safest route than the fast and wide. And a lot of people are unprepared, right? So just don't get caught up in the distraction. There will be a lot of negativity surrounding you, trying to pull you away from your mission, trying to pull you away from what matters to you, what you value. And I can tell you, for example, firsthand, where I took a misstep and costing me a lot for. So I was getting early into investing. I was using Robinhood, and my friend was selling me on buying stock options in this company called Purple. And now to this day, I still cannot tell you what they do. I think they specialize in selling mattresses or something like that. But anyway, this is back in 2020. So it was the Wild West for investing back then. And, we had no research, no logic, just vibes. And I ended up losing $300 in 2 days. So back to the book, it describes a student doing a similar thing. Like they made a bad investment. And he is scolded by his teacher. You fool, you uprooted your money tree, plant it again. So just start over and do it again. That's the beauty of it. Things like this will happen. Now, I only move on what I understand. So no more gambling just to look like I'm getting ahead. Next principle. Make your money work for you. Basically, don't let your money sleep. You may think you're doing yourself justice, keeping it in a savings account with X amount percentage cashback value, but let it grow, let it earn. Learn how to invest, find out and research about retirement accounts, look into real estate. There are many different avenues. All these things are just like vehicles to elevate yourself to get closer to your goals. For me, it's not much. I just value stability and just being able to take care of the people that I care about. The key word I want you guys to remember is ownership. Invest in yourself. And here's the truth, guys. The Richest Man in Babylon, it isn't about how much you make. It's not a get rich quick book. It's about how you think about money. Right? It teaches consistency, it teaches discipline, and it doesn't shame poverty or hard work. It encourages wisdom. And for me, as a African American, it is pretty empowering, because I never had anyone be able to break it down for me in this way at this level. And the reason why I'm framing it like this is because foundations like this aren't always what is projected on the screen. Especially from people that look like me, it's usually things you have to outwardly seek out, at least in my case. So I stopped blowing money on dumb stuff and started investing more in my career. But hey, some of these were gifts, right? So it's still okay to buy things that make you happy. Come on. But besides that, I started investing in me when I bought courses for certifications for work to, elevate myself and accelerate my career, gain more knowledge, maybe just get more opportunities off that. And even some of this gear to start my YouTube journey. At the end of the day, Babylon isn't gone. It now just looks like LA or New York or Atlanta, or wherever you're watching from. The lessons don't change, but the clothes and tech do. The money rules are timeless. So just ask yourself, every coin I spend, is it helping future me? Or maybe is it just feeding impulse me? We're taught to be consumers, we're taught to lease, to owe, to spend, but rarely to build. Something to think about. Financial literacy, the boring and slow way of long-term wealth, isn't what's publicized. social media has a habit of pushing flex culture or finding quick and unsustainable ways of making money. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people put on this mental chain that they think they're stuck or behind. And I see that a lot, especially in the younger gen. Instant gratification and lowered attention spans are the future. And social media will trick you into thinking you're behind. And just, do you not see how time is being used against you? Oh, I'm this age and I haven't achieved XYZ. These are all very valid and real thoughts. And I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't experience it and spend countless nights with this ideology myself. Just stick with a plan that works. As long as you remain on the path, it will set you up for what's bigger and better. And that's exactly what this book gave me. It gave me the perspective to believe that long-term wealth is possible even for someone who didn't come from it. And that's also what I think about with this channel. I think this channel is about growth, not just for me, but for anybody watching who knows that they deserve better. And so I just want to say thank you. And I really appreciate you guys for watching and sticking around. And like I mentioned, if you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck, start with this book. And if you've already read it before, please let me know in the comments, what resonated with you the most. And I'd also like to shout out the inspiration that drew me to not only reading this book, but even creating this video. I actually was recommended this book from a live stream I was watching from the stock guy named Josh Answers. He has a YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is Stock Market Live. He streams every day during market hours for the last 7 years. The guy is a living legend, or he's insane. So I wanted to pay the teachings forward, and I was inspired to create value and maybe change someone's perspective like mine was. So shout out to Josh and the vets, and I'll see y'all in the next one.